Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing a character sketch. Now, drawing characters is something that I used to do a ton and I loved it. That was kind of my core love for art when I was in middle school and high school. It was drawing these characters that I loved and I was interested in, and I never actually really did any like OCs where I took the same character and I drew them over and over again and they had stories and all of that, where a lot of people do that. I just did a lot of drawings of characters that I like to figure out how they would look and what their purpose was. And I really want to get back into that so that that is a lot stronger of a part of the way that I work. Right now I do a lot of stuff that are illustrations, that are one-offs, but they're not really focused around designing out a full character. And I loved that challenge of looking for ways that I can make it cohesive, these details that I can add into it, figuring out what their story is and how I can reflect that in their design. I just find that it's just so engaging for me. It really pushes me to get better. It pushes me to learn new things, to look up new reference. So looking into doing more concept work is something that's getting me really excited for future work that I'm going to do, and just getting back into the way that I know that I've used to love working. So I think that this is a really very exciting opportunity for me to just set myself back onto a course that I am most excited about, especially going into the next year and having this new goal. And I've also, I mention this every once in a while and I get people asking about it, and there's no concrete plans or anything, but I absolutely want to be producing a graphic novel at some point in the future. I do not want this to be something that I keep pushing off and it never happens. So I think that I need to make it happen in the next year. It needs to be a 2017 goal where I get a graphic novel either done or pretty much almost done. And I feel really excited about that, but a big part of it is going to be doing the characters, and I love doing that. So this is just a first little step in getting back into the practice of designing characters out and figuring out how cohesively to have a design and a look and how to make those choices. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was very carefree. I had this idea of just this girl who would collect plants in these little baskets on the side, and she has like this leg holster that's full of plants and bread. And I just wanted her to look really breezy and comfortable, and I reflected that in the way that I drew her hair, which was one of the favorite parts to work on for me, was getting it this like fluffed up look to it, so it looked almost windswept and a little tousled. And I just wanted to find elements like that where I could give her a little bit of more of a carefree look, so it would reflect the kind of personality that I wanted her to have. And I also had a lot of fun looking up different styles that I could put into this piece. And I have had a few questions from people on how do I figure out how to draw wrinkles in clothing, and how do I figure out how it interacts with the body. And it's just simply looking up photographs of people actually wearing clothing. And Pinterest is my personal favorite, where I can go in and I can look up just like different styles, and you'll find a ton of photos of women that have different outfits, different styles and clothing that they're wearing to show off the clothes. And that makes a great reference for when you're drawing. And that's really where I got the basic concept for this huge oversized sweater that she's wearing. I found this photograph of this woman wearing this really giant sweater, and it was so cool, and it had these huge sleeves, and the collar was just really huge so that it looked really loose around her. And I love that look. It just looked exactly the way that I wanted this character to look, really carefree and cozy, and it was perfect. And I found another reference of how I wanted to draw the legs so that I can make sure that they looked correct. And legs are one of those things that I think I'm not very good at yet. I tend to draw a lot of characters that are more like floating, or they're sitting in a way that they don't have to actually interact with the ground and gravity. And I think that that's kind of showing through when I actually try to draw characters that are like rooted in the ground. So that is one area that I really need to practice, but it is very helpful just to look up photographs of people standing and drawing from that. As simple as it sounds, it is absolutely necessary to get better as an artist, is to look and observe and see where you can improve. But that is where I was finding a lot of the jump-starting ideas for where I wanted to go with this character and how I was going to emulate that. And yeah, I really enjoyed working on her. But oh, and also a fun thing that I started working with this one is that I actually downloaded a different brush pack. I was wanting one that felt a lot more like a pencil, and it looked more like a pencil, and it had a little bit of that texture to it where it wasn't super sharp like the opaque brush that I use when I'm doing the inking, where it's very exact. I wanted one that did feel a little bit more hand done, where I could enjoy giving it little looser touches like I would when I'm traditionally sketching, because there's a lot of times where I'll let things be looser and not as refined, and I wanted that to be able to be in this as well. So yeah, I feel pretty happy with that so far. I did make a few tweaks to the brushes like I usually do. I think that I turned the opacity jitter down a little bit, just so that there was enough that it could build up, but it wasn't turned all the way down, so it wasn't like if I put almost no pressure, there would be almost no mark. I did give it enough so that it was still pretty visible, and I wouldn't have to push really hard and strain my hand to make sure that I got a mark at all. But yeah, I did turn the opacity jitter down a little bit, and I also turned the shape dynamics down to pen pressure. Those two I usually are ones that I have to play with when I use different brushes, because those are just personal things that the way that you like to work, you can really fine tune it. And that's what's cool about Photoshop brushes, is that you can get these brushes exactly the way you want them to be and exactly the way that you work. But I will have a link down below where I got the brush pack that I'm using, and you can try that out for yourself, because so far I'm actually really enjoying them. And I actually think this part is my favorite part, where I haven't done any of the colors yet. I really like the texture I was able to get with this brush and the overall look of the sketch, where it just has the sketch work, and that hatching effect is something that I do when I'm working with a regular pencil, so I was really happy with that and how it came out. But I am still really glad that I moved on to color and explored that, because color is a huge part of character design. It really shows what the personality of the character is. It shows whether they're good or bad. There's just so much information that you can tell in the color. So since this was a color study, I did definitely want to move on to the color and use color in the sketch. And yeah, overall it was definitely a good experience. Like always, there's always just a different set of things to figure out when I'm working on the colors for a character itself, because I want to make sure that it represents her personality, like I said, whereas when I'm working on a finished illustration, a lot of times those design elements are specifically for the illustration itself and how it interacts with the background and everything else and the mood of the piece itself. So this is purely for how I can represent that character. And yeah, I really love that. I did like the little bit of the complementary color that I had going on between her purple sweater and that orangey yellow of her basket. And at the beginning, I started off with a more purpley blue color for her pants, but I ended up changing it to more of a green blue so that it could have a little bit of more harmony with the plants that's going on. So the plants weren't the only green type color in this piece. And I like to look for elements like that, where there's a singular color that's not being reflected anywhere else in the piece. It either needs to be specifically there for a reason, or I need to fix it so that it has more of a flow to the whole design of this character. And this part, I didn't really like the look of the plants, where it was kind of dotted and rushed. And yeah, I didn't think that design-wise it went well with the character. I did end up replacing it with something that looked more like branches, but overall, I think that that's probably the weakest part. The part that I was the most lazy was designing out the plants. So next time I need to be a lot more conscious about designing every element of the character and not be lazy, and just make sure that I'm paying attention to all of it. And that is pretty much it for this character design. I loved working on it. It was very simple. She didn't have a huge story that she needed to be able to fulfill, but I did love working on something that was more design oriented, and that is definitely what I want to do more in the future. I even have a character design series that I've already started on, where we're going to design a character together, and I'm really excited about that. One that's a lot more in-depth, and I can be a lot more precise about the design overall. So I am really happy to be able to have gotten this little bit of practice of getting back into that kind of emotion. But like I said, that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want to check out my art shop, there's a link right down in the corner of this video, and there's also a link down in the description as well. And I will see you guys at my next video.